Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with the final episode of Classic Doctor Who. Last time around we had The Curse of Fenric. What was that one about?
Remind me of that, because suddenly I'm blanking out.
Well, the Doctor and Ace end up on a British military base in World War II, and the Russians also land at that same base, and then there are vampires,
although they're called wolves.
Yeah, but they are they're different from vampires in that they are only hurt by a person's faith, and there's this whole curse going around, and the curse of Fenric. Fenric is this ancient evil deity that the Doctor defeated 2,000 years ago and has engineered all of Ace's life in order to get to a point where he can beat the Doctor, and then he gets stumped by a game of chess, and then the head hemivore or vampire kills Fenric with the toxic gas that one of the British commanders was using. It sounds better than it was a lot better than I make it sound. So
it was good. Yes, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and that was last episode. Now we are on to the final episode, the end of Classic. I mean, I say this, we're also going to watch the movie next week, but we've already seen the movie.
Yes.
So next week we'll be rewatching the movie. But this week we will be finishing off all of Classic Doctor Who. I don't know. See, you wanted to bring up the original thumbnail from the first video we did. I don't have the thumbnail anymore because I got kicked out of Internet Archive. I don't know why, but I can kind of go see. I have to scroll a bit. Okay, get to Doctor Who. One of these.
I remember we actually did this in the living room.
Yeah.
Because
where is...
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah. Can I zoom in and make that more visible to see? Kind of. Okay, where are we in space and time? Hang on. There it is. There it is.
Boy, look at us.
The original video. I had so much more hair. That's kind of it. I had so much more hair. So, but yeah, that was 5 years ago that we started this one. And a lot of things have happened in those 5 years. So, oh boy. But now we are finally at the end. I don't think we're the first channel to watch all of Doctor Who. I'm sure there's at least 2 or 3 other YouTube channels out there that have already finished Classic Doctor Who before us. But it is quite an achievement to watch all televised, kind of with an asterisk, Doctor Who. We have to put the asterisk there just because of the reconstructed episodes. Though I heard apparently they've recently found something. Someone found old BBC reels, and they haven't checked them yet. I think this was very recently. Nobody knows what they are. People are saying it would be hilarious if it was the Toymaker episode. So I don't know. Maybe they'll find something pretty soon. But
I wish they would find Marco Polo.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Because whereas we thought the Toymaker was one of the worst episodes, and that again may be simply because it was in the reconstructions, it did not play well.
Yeah,
but it also seemed very strange. Just the whole thing, and we later found out that they were thinking about getting rid of Hartnell. That's why he literally is invisible in like 2 of the episodes.
Yeah. So, So yeah, but what a long journey we have had. All right, get this to fix itself. There we go. But all of this, let me try to actually pull up the playlist. There it is. All of this, so many videos. There's, how many, can you read that number right there?
I know it's 200 and something. 232 maybe?
232, something around there. A lot of videos. From our original tour, going through the Daleks, Tomb of the Cybermen, Terror of the Auton, Genesis of the Daleks, Kinda, Veros, and Remembrance, and the movie. Then going through... I didn't think we were going to start doing these once a week, and then it just kind of happened. And here we are now, at the tail end of that, so... Just so many episodes. It took so long, and we're all here, and there were no problems, there were no controversies along the way. It was all smooth sailing going through all of these episodes.
Yes, we love them all.
Yes. With the same asterisks that we put for watching all of them. So, oh boy. There's been so many. It's literally 26 years of television we have watched.
And it took us 5 years to do it.
Yeah. And that's by splitting them up. I know there are other channels that split them up even more. They'll take a 4-part story and do like 2 one video and then 2 the next video. I don't know how they're doing that. That's, to me, that seems ridiculous. Now maybe that helps some of the watchability of these episodes, but
of course we were only doing it once a week too.
Yeah.
They may be doing it more frequently than that.
Maybe. I don't know. But we were finally here at the end with the most ironically named final episode of all, Survival, the thing that the show did not do. So,
now, I did read somewhere that apparently after they finished filming it, of course, and there was a delay before they were going to actually broadcast it, when they realized that it wasn't coming back, was it John Nathan Turner, who was producer at this time?
Yeah.
He had Sylvester McCoy record a voiceover at the end, very much like Heart Knows Someday I'll Be Back sort of thing, where it basically did at least a wrap-up for that final episode.
Well, that's at least good. So, but yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I'm not entirely sure what to expect of this. Like, is it going to feel like a finale? I mean, Doctor Who episodes never really feel like season finales anyway. They're just another episode pretty much. But it's 3 parts, and I'm curious to see where we're going with it. And I don't know. And after this, we will also do our end of era recap as well. We'll be recapping the short era of the 7th Doctor, just only vaguely longer than the 6th Doctor's era, but we'll go through all that. I don't know if we'll have anything else. I mean, see, I'm thinking, like, could I do, like, a best of compilation of this reaction series, but I don't remember half of the things that are the best of, so maybe if you leave in the comments what are some of your favorite moments from all of our classic Doctor Who reactions, maybe I'll make a compilation. It won't come out next week, but maybe I'll get it done at some point. And of course next week we have the movie as well. Yeah. So, the only other thing I was thinking about was, have you ever heard of Honest Trailers?
Yes.
They did, a while back, they did a Honest Trailers for all of classic Doctor Who. So I thought maybe we could react to that, because I think I did watch it at one point, and it was pretty funny. It doesn't really give spoilers or anything. So, so maybe we'll watch that as a fun sort of bookend to this. But you got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then why don't we just jump right into the final episode of classic Doctor Who, Survival. No, evil cats. As opposed to cats. Cats have finally taken over the world.
So what's so terrible about Perryville?
Nothing ever happens here.
Well, except haunted houses and such.
Show me. No.
Those eyes.
No sport for you here.
Those horrible yellow eyes.
Do you have a problem with strays?
Stray what?
Cats.
I wouldn't know. It's hardly a priority around here.
Come on, Doctor.
Dr. A, you're not in the best of shape yourself, though, are you? You want to build yourself up. You know, I give a class down here Monday nights for the older men.
I'm going to see a man about a cat.
Remember, keep fit and self-defense. One finger can be a deadly weapon.
Look, 4 bodies ago, he was really great at that kind of stuff.
Hi, Ace. Thought you were dead.
What?
That's what they said. Either you were dead or you'd gone to Birmingham.
A fate worse than death.
Just
You're a runner. You should be able to outrun him.
Oh, yeah. Quit looking at it, just run! You know, I know I'm completely out of shape. I'd be running.
Nationwide Anglia. I lived in East Anglia.
Okay, I didn't think that's what was chasing them.
Cats on horseback.
Run!
And you cannot run a horse.
Yeah. Yeah, that dog will eat anything.
Go away! Go on, shoot! Dog! Go away!
Doctor!
Ace!
You know, there's never stories about evil dogs.
You haven't seen Cujo, have you?
Okay.
It's a Stephen King story and a movie.
Okay, well, one exception. And if anyone's gonna do it.
Time for some Nitro 9, I'm thinking.
Eh.
Will you leave me go?
Look, don't be stupid, eh? Don't get yourself into real trouble.
A finger can be a deadly weapon.
Good job.
No, she doesn't have her backpack.
Well,
Have a rock and beat him over the head.
take the horse.
I wonder if that's the animatronic cat from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Or the Hocus Pocus movie. That's the kind of fence I fell off of
Oh,
You
when I broke my toe.
did you fall off into a quarry?
No.
Oh,
Why, Doctor? What an unexpected pleasure.
it's always a good way of ending it.
Yeah, that's one of the young women looked very familiar.
Why is he with the cat people? We always find him in the most ridiculous scenarios.
Now, I have to say, that looked like his eyes, but it didn't sound like his voice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he has such a distinctive look that even if you just see the eyes, like, it definitely looked like him, but yeah, the voice was very different. So, you know the sad thing? Their cat costumes look so much better than the 2019 Cats movie that had money and talent behind it. It's so terrible, but these actually, they look decent, so it's an interesting story.
Okay, so we have apparently an alternate dimension or an interplanetary portal which transports humans from Earth to the planet of the cats.
Yes.
And somehow or other, the master, I don't know if he's in charge. I mean, that last little shot before the penultimate shot of him showed him with the yellow eyes, so maybe he was captured by the cats too and somehow managed to take them over or at least guide them or something.
It's an interesting thing. This episode was especially a slow burn, but it was building up the mystery and everything. And I mean, it's a little bit like, okay, how many times can we walk around this town? But it was interesting enough, and the mystery of the cats is interesting. I was just not expecting when it's like, because they kept showing like, something is attacking these kids, and it's like, so what is it? And they finally show it. I was not expecting a cat man on a horse, but I will give props for creativity. I thought it was just going to be a giant cat monster. So that's at least interesting. And I mean, just the imagery of that is like, on this planet, cats evolved to be the dominant species, I suppose, and they tamed the horse. It's strange. I don't know why the master is doing any of this, but I mean, but at the same time, why does the master do anything? Is it somehow going to help him defeat the Doctor? We're just not sure how. So,
and I wonder where the town of Perryvale is, because that sign said Anglia.
Yeah.
Again, I lived in East Anglia for 3 years, so
I don't know if they made up Perryvale or not. They might have, but it could be somewhere around there. I don't know.
I would assume if it's not made up, then it's somewhere north and slightly east of London, but don't. The accents certainly weren't East Anglia.
Yeah, so
that's probably more north central somewhere. Again, I don't know my accents that well, so it's it's York, it's Manchester, it's not Liverpool, but I imagine it's somewhere.
Yeah. It probably also helps with this episode just knowing that it is 3 parts. It's like, I don't know if this could have worked as a 4-parter already, but it's like, just knowing it's 3 parts is like, okay, we can get this story, and we had our sort of weird, kind of slow first episode, but now we can just get straight into the action and see whatever the master is up to. He's so weird. We haven't seen him since the trial of the Time Lord. Like, this is his first appearance and only appearance in the 7th Doctor's era, but I mean, it's always good to see him.
Yeah.
So I know there are some people while they're watching classic Doctor Who, there are some people that don't really care for Anthony Ainley's performance, mainly just because they say it's a bit too camp. I think that's honestly his strength, because the original Master, he could have some more almost intimidating moments, but I feel like everything just kind of gels better with the Master there, where it's like, yes, we're going to have this incredibly campy, over-the-top story, but you have someone there that kind of helps you. It's at least your thing that you're familiar with, so it's not too far out there. So
Run, Doctor. Run. Don't run!
I like his new outfit.
No, Patterson!
I was relying on your intelligence, Doctor. It would be such an uncivilized death.
I'm just playing with it.
You're essentially a fun-loving species. Doctor, there are things I must discuss with you.
I never thought about the fact that now he's finally taller than the Doctor.
They're mine to command! I control them! Very well. I'll find some other food for you.
I want him to just have a spray bottle that he uses on them.
Alright, so this is 89 and they're still delivering milk.
Yeah.
I knew they were in 66, but I didn't know they kept doing it.
Where are you, Doctor? What's your plan?
You know, even for a story with the Master, this is particularly weird.
Is this integration? You think we're going to blow up?
Well, it is an old planet, a bit frayed at the edges. We'll be safe over there. Safe from the cheaters and the Master.
Master? Who's he?
An evil genius. One of my oldest and deadliest of enemies.
Do you know any nice people? You know, ordinary people. Not power-crazed nutties trying to take over the galaxy.
I don't think he's trying to take over the galaxy.
Honestly, no.
Hunt him. Seek him out. Find him for me.
Be a good boy.
Hurry.
Don't bring back a dead fish.
Like cats actually behave.
Eh.
These chiefers look hungry.
Your mother saw the play Cats in New York, and she said that bothered her the most, that she was sitting next to a balcony where the cat kept trying to play with her hair.
Don't run! Stay still!
Help me! No! Get off! Get off!
Come on then!
Oh, good hit. Oh, that one's friendly now. That's so metal.
You're trapped. You can't escape.
I'm gonna start telling people this is the plot of Dune.
We should become like them. We shall become animals.
But you've really gotten weird since last I saw you.
Should we leave it, Doctor?
They're extremely dangerous creatures. They could eat you.
They could push your stuff off of a
Or
shelf.
what?
Worse.
There's nothing I don't know about survival. It's kill or be killed, right? Kill or be killed.
Kill or be killed.
Good lad. You'll come through. We'll come through if you just follow the Sarge. Are you with me?
Yes.
Do you think he's actually been in a war?
Well, you'd better get with me because if we're going to survive, we can't carry shelters
See,
and
by-
we can't carry dead wood.
89? No. Falklands, maybe.
Oh, you fell for it, fool.
Go home.
So there is a way out.
A way out? Yes. We wait for one of us to change, and then we use them. Then we try to escape. Kill us all.
There's no telling who'll be next, is there? Let's get a grip and... What are you looking at? It's him, isn't it? He's the one. You stay away from me.
Look! Oh yeah! She's better! Doctor, look!
It's a particularly weird episode.
Yeah, not a lot of action there. And kind of thrown off at, in the United States, Midge is a girl's name. So, and he's not particularly short, short for
Well,
midget
yeah.
or anything. So, I don't know where he got the name Midge. Perhaps someone can explain it.
Yeah, see, now it's weird that there's only one more part. Because that felt like... I don't know. I mean, how much left is there? Is Ace is already turning. You use Ace to get back home. Turn them back into humans and defeat the Master and his cat. You know what it is? It doesn't even feel like the Master had this is his grand plan and his grand design. It seems like he just legitimately got stuck here and then was like, okay, I need to think of something to do. And only now, with the arrival of the Doctor and Ace, is one of them able to turn and he's able to get out of there. Otherwise, I don't think he has some grand evil scheme. He just kind of got stuck.
Yeah.
So,
And I can't tell if his plan was to lure Ace so that the Doctor would come and tell him how they could get out. I don't know. I mean, it seems a
Yeah.
bit disjointed. I mean, it's fun to watch,
Yeah.
And again, very impressed that they got what I would consider to be stunt performers who can ride horses, who also would be willing to wear a cheetah outfit, because I don't know where this was filmed, but it's got to be very warm. Although at one point, in one of the scenes when the doctor was shouting, I saw that his breath was visible. So it's probably cool. So the guys in the costumes are probably not incredibly hot.
Yeah. But
yeah, this is one of those things where I'd love to know where this was filmed and at what time of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's keeping my interest, and thankfully, again, it's only 3 parts, so it doesn't have to do too much, but honestly, this is way weirder than Ghostlight was. Like, Ghostlight is weird, but at the same time, like, it kind of lays out all the information in a timely manner so you understand it. Yeah. At least for us it did. But this one, it's like, even for a story with the Master, it's like, this is particularly weird. It's like, at least I understand. It's like, the Master, and maybe this will change in the last part, but the Master really doesn't seem to have a big grand plan. Like, he's not doing anything. He's literally just, he got stuck on this planet and he needs to get out. So, and
again, no explanation of how he got there. Like you said, the last time we saw him was Trial of a Time Lord.
Yeah.
So
they never explain. Like, they always kind of leave him in a place where he's like stuck or trapped. Like, I think he was trapped inside the Matrix in Trial of a Time Lord or something like that. But they never explain how he goes from where we last saw him to where he is now. Other than he's just stuck on this planet. And I guess, because it's also like, Midge was there for a long time on that planet. But it seems to be specifically with the arrival of the Doctor and Ace that now some of them can turn and he can get out of there. So, I don't know. Well, this isn't the right, frolicking kind of music they need. Back to being a normal teenager, I see.
If I have to suffer this contamination, this humiliation, if I am to become an animal, then like an animal I will destroy you, Doctor. I will hunt you, trap you, and destroy you.
Why doesn't he try regenerating?
You're my hunting dog, Midge. The teeth for my trap.
Hunting cat. Come on.
So I had a blackout. Perfectly normal. Stress, overwork. That's all. I've had medicals.
Thanks, Ace. Thanks, Doctor. Thanks for saving my life, getting me back home.
I don't know what you mean. What are you talking about?
Thanks, Ace. Thanks, Doctor. Thanks for saving my life and getting me back home.
Good kid.
I'm late for self-defense.
Ah, yes, the modern horse.
Got him some new threads, did he?
He's got that 80s drip.
Been held up. I learned a secret today. The secret of success.
Cats.
Thought I'd share it with you.
Go, Mr. Fluffy.
Bloody hell.
Ace, listen to me! Listen to me! If you fight, you change. You'll change completely forever.
Keep the umbrella, make it a joust. A little bit more than a joust.
Die at last, with your enemy's blood in your mouth. With your enemy's blood in your mouth.
Now you just have to outrun the other guy.
Do you bleed?
Oh god.
I can always do something to you if you bleed.
Well, at least it was a soft landing.
If we fight like animals, we'll die like animals! If we fight like animals, we die like animals!
Where to now, Ace?
Home.
Home?
The TARDIS.
Yes, the TARDIS. There are worlds out there where the sky's burning, where the sea's asleep and the rivers dream. People made of smoke and cities made of song. Some of there's danger, some of there's injustice, and somewhere else the tea's getting cold. Come on, Ace. We've got work to do.
Alrighty. And what a note to go out on.
Don't know where the Master is. Save the planet for itself, I guess. There's no link to the Earth anymore, I guess.
None of the cat people were just moved somewhere else. Somewhere where they don't have a bodily connection to the planet itself.
Well,
alright. That's it.
It's the last scene is literally the best thing about leaving it in limbo. But any number of the other episodes from this season would have made a fitting end. But again, I don't think they knew at the time that they weren't coming back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an odd episode to end on, but I think John Nathan Turner was right to have him say what he said there at the end. We've got work to do. There's other places to go, people to see, planets to dream of, whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the only reason this episode vaguely works is because of the Master. But that's a lot of Master episodes. Is just, it's some of the weirdest crap. But he just kind of makes it work. So, oh boy. I don't know how much we will actually talk about the episode itself, because there's not a lot to, like, analyze about. I mean, I guess you could say, you could talk about the survival of the fittest stuff, you know? Like, and especially, too, you know, we talk about some of these episodes having a very kind of heavy-handed message at the end, and this one kind of had that, you know, if we live like animals, we'll die like animals. And it's an interesting thing. I don't know if that was, like, topical, really. Like, what, like, you know, because we had, you know, the nukes, or, like, last episode with the poison gas and stuff like that. It's like, is this just a general message, or is, you know, what at this time in 1989 made them think, hey, let's write a story with this kind of message?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting thing. You know, you can go into, like, the Sarge, like, again, like, has he actually fought in a war? Like, he strikes me as one of those, you know, like quasi-military types where it's like, you know, he's really into that, and he's all about, you know, self-defense, and, you know, we have to survive. I've been through so much survival training. It's like, okay, but do you have experience with this stuff? Yeah. Because there's a difference between a guy who's interested in the military tactics and survival and stuff, and someone who's been in the military, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Now, again, it seems to me, and again, knowing now that they did not know they were going to be canceled, Survival of the Fittest is still a great story, you know, underlying story. They could have had two different groups on the planet, the cheetah people and some other group, where, again, they're essentially fighting against each other, and the Doctor essentially has to tell them, you know, look, you've been bred this way. This is why you are this way. But just because you've been bred this way doesn't mean, I mean, look at human beings. Over the past, 2 million years, we have come to a small extent, we've been able to suppress many of the animal instincts. And I think that would have made as interesting a story to simply say to them, look, the only way to survive is not survival of the fittest, but survival of everyone, survival of all the species working together in harmony. It's a lesson about society. And again, in 1989, as the Soviet Union was falling apart, Germany breaks free and all the other satellite countries break free, and the whole that could have been a very timely topic where he's basically saying, look, I know that you are all kind of united under this authoritarian kind of instinct, but set all that aside, learn how to work together, and you will all thrive. So, I mean, it's a great story, and what they did with it was fine. It did not have to have the master, in my opinion.
I was going to say, it almost feels like the message is kind of lost because you have the master, because it's like, it's survival of the fittest. It's like, why don't you go out there and fight? I mean, he did kill Kara, but he did that as the master would, by having a secret weapon on hand, Like, for him, it's not really survival of the fittest, but survival of the cleverest, which I guess you could say that's part of, that could be one aspect of survival of the fittest and everything, but it's like, it almost falls apart because it's like, he's not really the fittest, he's just the one who can scheme the most, Yeah. So I don't know. And yeah, the fact that it's like, it's this strange planet where it's like, okay, the planet is connected to the Cheetahman, but there's not like a species on this planet that they hunt. They teleport to other planets, find people, bring them back, and then they can hunt them. And I guess, because they kind of gloss over just like, there was a previous civilization here that tried to control them and created the cat vultures, basically, but none of that helped really. I don't know. And I guess too, because at the end when they show Kara transformed back into a human at her death, I'm kind of thinking like, okay, so which came first, the chicken or the egg? Where did the Cheetahman come from then?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting idea, but it just kind of lost along the way.
Did Midge die? I couldn't really tell.
Yes. Because after the motorcycles exploded, I guess maybe he could have been saved. I almost think the master talked him into death. He's like, you know what you have to do. It's survival of the fittest, and there was no way that he could have survived, but it's almost like I almost feel like he purposefully just gave up and died there.
Yeah.
So,
again, there's a good story in there, dying to get out.
Yeah, I get what they were going for, but at the same time, it is kind of lost a bit. And again, episodes with the Master don't have to be that deep, because they can always just kind of be goofy fun times. But if you want to get deep, having the Master there, you really got to work for that. He has to really be... And I think it's another thing of, he's not really, he's not doing anything. He just wanted to escape from that place, and because he started being affected by that planet, then he wanted to use it to kill the Doctor. But other than that, he didn't have this grand scheme like he normally does.
And although I understand what they were doing, again, directorially speaking, visually speaking, I think there was a moment they missed, and I hate to say an Obi-Wan and Darth Vader moment, but, with the Master, while they were back on the Cheetah planet, and he said, our fighting is causing the planet to break up. And then the Doctor keeps saying, I can't fight. If you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can imagine. And then the Master raises up and swings, and suddenly the Doctor's gone, and then he pops up back on Earth. That might have been a little bit more visually. And there's a lot of people who say we're trying to be too literally visual about stuff like this. But again, that's a moment that I think would have, when the Doctor realizes he had calmed himself, he was not going to fight, and because of that, it popped him out of the way before the Master could strike him.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about, like, when we want things sort of more literally visually, I mean, visual storytelling, I mean, it's half the medium in film, you know, and visual storytelling, you can do so much with that it's like, you know, even with, you know, we talk about, you know, budget of a ham sandwich, you know, but you can still do something visually very interesting with that, you know, with some of the choreography, just take it a little bit. And you're right, because otherwise it does kind of just look like, you know, like, well, the Doctor said the message of the episode and that's what popped him back to the TARDIS, basically. So, like, I almost thought too, like, when it's the whole thing of, like, you know, you have to go home, I almost thought maybe they would accidentally be taken back to Gallifrey.
That would have been interesting too, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense for the Doctor, for if he's being taken home, it would take him back to where the TARDIS is, but, like, that could have been interesting, and who knows, that might have happened for the Master. We don't know, what does he technically consider his home? We don't really get that side of the Master very often.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, it's good that this was 3 parts, because it did make things a little bit more tolerable, but it's like, I see what they're trying to do. I just don't think it worked out in execution. So
I got nothing.
Yeah. I guess that's all for that episode. So it is the end of an era in more ways than one. So let's jump into a very quick, because there's so few episodes, once again. We're going to run through and give a our quick thoughts on every episode this era, starting with Season 24, Episode 1, Time and the Rani.
Now, this is the one where she was... This is not the introduction. No, the introduction was during the 6th Doctor, right?
Right.
Okay. So I didn't think this one was as good as the one where she was back in Industrial Revolution England.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember... Oh, this is the one where she was making herself appear as someone else, and the Doctor was all scrambled because he had just regenerated.
Yeah. She was disguised as Mel, and she was trying to have... She was using multiple... Because I was wondering, I was like, what was the brain thing for? And I was like, oh yeah, she wanted to get genius brains, meld them all into one brain, and then it was something like she had to figure out how to restart the universe.
That's right.
Or something like that, to where she would be able to pick and choose what lived and what died in order to make what she viewed as a perfect universe. It was a little convoluted, and it was a bit of a leap from the last time we saw the Rani, but I mean, it was still an interesting one. It was a decent enough introduction to the 7th Doctor, so overall, I thought it was okay.
Yeah. And the 7th Doctor has done, even over his short time span, what I think a lot of our audience felt that the 2nd Doctor did, what Troughton did. I think the difference is Troughton, in many instances, was very subtle about it, and it didn't always come across to us.
Yeah.
You know, especially after, we had just spent, all that time watching Hartnell. And again, was it the Power of the Daleks where the 2nd Doctor was introduced?
Yeah.
Very weird. Now, once he got going with Jamie, that improved.
Yeah.
But again, I think The seventh Doctor is what they thought the second Doctor was going to be. And it took them a long time to kind of get into that. He jumped into it right away. I really have enjoyed Sylvester McCoy.
Yeah, definitely. The only times, I'll go ahead and say, there's only a couple times where I don't buy the performance. And it's mainly when he gets, like, I don't know how to describe it. Not really angry, but when he gets, like, the sort of bolsterous voice, like, oh, no, you won't be able to do this, or something. He does something like that, and he gets, like, real intense. It's the only moment where I'm like, I don't know if they couldn't do another take on that, or if he didn't know what he was trying to do with that part of the performance. It's very rare, but it's just every so often he tries to get this, like, weird sort of bolsterous voice against his enemy, and that's the only time where I'm like, I don't really buy that. Which Trout never did that.
Yeah.
So, but, like, that's the only thing where I'm like, I feel like he wanted a second take on that. So,
all right, what do we got?
Next up was Paradise Towers.
Okay.
It was interesting.
And again, the execution was interesting. It was very, I don't want to say 1984, but the hierarchy versus the young kids, the gangs, the girls, the strange little cleanup robots, and then the guy down in the basement, and so again, it was okay. It was kind of, I don't want to say it was jumbled, but again, I don't think it was performed the way they expected it to.
Yeah, I mean, it is good. It is interesting, like an interesting concept, but yeah, it's just like, it's so kind of strange and out there, but I don't know. And I think maybe the major problem is at the end when you get, like, the robot that used to be the guy that designed Paradise Towers taking over the head guy that was in charge, and then it's just such a strange performance. Like, he's almost zombie-like, and it's like, well, it's weird that this guy would be like that, once he finally gets a new body. But it was good, but yeah, it probably would have been one of those that would have benefited from having 3 parts instead of 4. So after that was Delta and the Bannermen.
Again, very interesting. I thought it had a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
And this is where he doesn't ditch Mel in this one, does he?
No, that's the next one.
All right. But yeah, the lady who escapes from her planet with her little egg that becomes her daughter, and then the Bannermen who are chasing her, and it's all wrapped up in a theme park in Wales somewhere.
Yeah.
They were going to do it in Disneyland, but somehow didn't have the budget, so it ended up right there on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Enjoyable. Weird,
It was goofy. I did like it, like this, and with Paradise Towers, one interesting thing is just there's so many characters, like so many different, like, groups of characters that all kind of team up. And it is sort of interesting how they sort of juggle it, and it's like they're all interesting in their own ways, So it's like I at least like that it's like, it's not really like, there's never really a dull moment, It's just this weird kind of goofy stuff. I would say this one I would still like more than Paradise Towers, but again, this one was the 3 parts. And I think, again, now that we're here at the end, I can say there are a lot of classic Doctor Who stories that would have benefited from cutting it down to 3 parts. Yeah. And I know not a lot of people are going to agree with that, but that's just what I think. So after that was Dragonfire, the farewell to Mel randomly, and the introduction of Ace.
Yeah, and it made no sense for Mel to go off with Absalom Glitz. That made no sense whatsoever.
That it was just sort of out there. I mean, she literally said, it's like, well, I guess it's time for me to go. And I was like, well, are they getting meta about this? Like, yeah, it is time for you to go just because your contract is up, but there's no reason in the story for you to go.
Yeah.
So,
And here they were trying to get the brain of the dragon.
There was something, it was something like the power crystal within the dragon, which would free Kane, this evil war criminal that was imprisoned in a shopping mall. And
Deep Space Nine, yeah.
Yeah. And it was okay. It's a decent enough introduction to Ace, but overall it's okay. Yeah. And the ending with Mel leaving is just kind of weird, so. Yeah. After that was Remembrance of the Daleks. Easily the best episode of the era.
Yes.
And probably one of, at least like top 5 best episodes of all of classic Doctor Who.
Yes.
So it just immediately, they get into it, they get into the action. It's 4 parts. It deserves all 4 parts. It's interesting. There's the back and forth between the 2 different Dalek factions. There's all the interesting humans, even the sort of proto-unit military that they've got. The Doctor's interesting. His dynamic with Ace is great. It's all just really, really solid.
We have levitating Daleks and then Ace taking off one of their heads with a baseball bat.
Yeah, it's as well as all of it being a callback to... Yes. The original story. So all in all, definitely top 5. Like, I don't know if I would put it above Genesis of the Daleks or the War Games, but it's really close up there.
Yeah.
So after that was the Happiness Patrol.
All right. We didn't like it.
No.
But again, this whole idea of it being, a parody of the Margaret Thatcher government. I mean, I knew about Margaret Thatcher's government. I knew that a lot of people didn't like her. But one of the commenters said, if instead you think of it as a treatise on homophobia and the treatment of gay people in the mid-'80s there, that made if I had known that going in, it would have made way more sense. And of course, our biggest problem, because we did not know about the Candyman being a ripoff of something in England.
Yeah.
But to us, he seemed to be ludicrous. He was not threatening in the least. The whole thing to an American audience unaware of this deeply British influence on this particular episode, it made no sense to us.
Yeah, and it's just so strange. And just like, because there's one thing about it being strange. Episodes can be strange. We just watched an episode that was strange, and and there's another episode that we'll get to in a bit. But it's like, it just felt like scenes. It felt like they shot everything, they threw it into their editor, even if in 1989 or 88 they didn't have the video editing we have now. But it's like, it feels like they threw it into an editor, and then they were just like, print it,
Blender.
Yeah, it's just, there was no coherent plot. Nothing was happening from scene to scene. It was just random different things, and then you have the Candyman, who's this giant gumdrop thing with a head made of nerds, and he had this like weird high-pitched voice, and he was very easily defeated by lemonade or whatever.
And stuck him to the floor with lemonade?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. And I don't know. I'm glad it was 3 parts, because that means we didn't have to watch it longer. And
there's a lot of things that, are, creepy about toys, and there are a lot of movies and even TV episodes that have been done. But this wasn't creepy. It was just...
Yeah.
I didn't feel the menace that I think we should have felt.
Well, and even like the main, what was it, Helen A was the main villain. I didn't get any menace from her. I was just like, all right, like, I know the Doctor would never do this, but one swift hit from his umbrella and she's gonna go down. Like, that doesn't work on all villains, but it's like, there's nothing that threatening about her other than she has people with guns. Like, and I mean, I guess that is threatening, but it's like, I never got any sort of presence from Helen A, And I think another thing, and there were a couple people that mentioned this too in the comments, there's no sense of like where we are. Like, it's just this strange, like, everything is indoors, but it's kind of outdoors. Like, they're going through, you know, the streets of this city, but it's clearly just a hallway with a couple doors on it. And it's like, I don't have any sense of what this society is or how it functions whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. If there was political commentary about Margaret Thatcher, I didn't see it. Because, like, even with political commentary, if you don't understand who it specifically is targeting, you can still see it as, well, it's commentary about an era. You know, you could see stuff like this happening in the U.S. or in other countries, or you could see that as different things. I mean, we watch Vengeance on Varos, and, you know, we see all the stuff with, like, the you know, the voting and everything like that, and it's like, wow, this is kind of topical for today. Nothing about this episode can be related to today, really.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I don't know. So I just... No. It's just...
Yeah.
This ain't it.
Not for us.
Yeah. And I was at least glad to see that it wasn't an overwhelming, like, backlash on this. Like, there were plenty of people coming out of the woodworks saying they did not like the Happiness Patrol, and so for those of you out there, we are with you. So after that was Silver Nemesis. It was interesting. It's one of those episodes, and I don't know why they kept doing this, but it's a sequel to an episode that doesn't exist. You know, the Doctor has apparently dealt with Lady Painfort before, and like you know, obviously he's met the Cybermen before, but there's something about that, and it's just like, I can't really get invested in that because I don't know what's happening.
So there's Renaissance characters.
Yes.
There's the Cybermen, and there's refugee Nazis from South America.
Yes.
And the Doctor and Ace.
Yes.
It's
and
like,
they're...
Seriously, that's like, you know, a couple of guys sitting around in a back room, you know, token up and going, you know, hey, what would be good to add to a Cyberman story? Oh, let's do Nazis, man.
The Nazis serve no purpose in this story. And if you're going to put the Nazis in your story, they kind of got to do something.
They got a Nazi.
Yeah, it's just... Like, everyone was vying for this statue thing, and it's... I don't know. It's okay. Again, 3 parts, so it was mercifully short. It's like, it's... With the 3 parts, you can get through it so much better, but it's like... It's all right. It's mid at best, I guess. Speaking of mid at best, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
Now, again, talk about creepy clowns. This one was creepier.
Yeah.
Although the ultimate background of it, the gods of Ragnarok,
so boring.
Made little sense to whatever else was going on.
Yeah.
You know, if they had not been, you know, gigantic, you know, stone statues, if they had been some circus, you know, thing, if they were portrayed perhaps as ringmasters or something, but
if they were the gods of clowns, that'd be terrifying.
I mean, if you're going to go with some kind of mythology, don't go with Ragnarok, don't go with Norse mythology, go with the Greeks or the Romans who actually had gods of foolery. I mean, if they were supposed to be Loki or something like that, that's one thing, but that made no sense. The rest of it, again, very kind of creepy, very kind of weird.
Yeah.
Again, could have been a good serial, a good episode, but to me, spoiled by this kind of completely unnecessary or unconnected event at the end.
And definitely just like should have been 3 parts. If it was 3 parts, it would have been tighter. I wouldn't have seen more of the problems of, you know, how many times can we run across this tent? How many times can we see this, you know, British explorer guy being like, oh, well, let me tell you a story about how I'm the greatest, and then I'm going to screw people over like every episode. It's just like, just move it along. Like, you can't be taking so much time. Like, you know, at 4 parts, it's practically, you know, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours, basically. It's like, you gotta get to the point. You gotta get to some of the action, you know? This, if it was 3 parts, it would have been a bit better. The fact that it's 4, the fact that they, twiddled their thumbs for so long until we got to literally the characters that twiddle their thumbs. They just sat there and the Doctor did the most boring things, like with no music, no nothing, no spectacle. He was just doing some weird things to try to entertain them, and is so boring. So,
not the greatest show.
Yeah. After that was Battlefield. We make it to the final season.
And the return of the Brigadier.
Yeah. This one, it's kind of like with the Master, where we say like the Master makes a lot of stories better. It's like having the Brigadier and having Unit does make this episode better. Yeah. Like otherwise it would have been good. It would have been interesting. The whole thing with Arthurian legend from another dimension and stuff like that. But adding on the Brigadier and Unit, that always just makes things so much better.
Yeah.
So
and Gene Marsh.
Yeah. So overall, it was good. Definitely can have its 4 parts. Didn't need to be cut down or anything. That one was good.
Who's the guy there in the center?
The Destroyer.
The Destroyer, yeah. And having the special bullets.
Yeah, setting up the silver bullets ahead of time, where the Brigadier's like, oh, well, I'll be sure we get some of those. And then having that, and having the Brigadier being the one to finish the Destroyer.
Yeah.
So that was good. I enjoyed that. After that was Ghostlight.
Very weird, but intriguing.
Yeah.
We use the word interesting way too much, but intriguing. What essentially was kind of an introduction to Ace's background. Back in Perivale, she got a feeling about this haunted house, and it was very weird. She ended up burning it down, but as it turns out, 90, 100 years ago, there was all sorts of weird stuff going on there. Aliens had come to catalog the evolution of species on Earth, or catalog the species, and then didn't realize that evolution was taking place, and that literally as soon as their survey was complete, it was already obsolete because all of the species had evolved.
Yeah.
And even those species that are nearly the same as they were thousands and even millions of years ago, some of them are literally the same, Yeah. I don't want to say it's sharks that are that old, but there are some species on Earth who only have minor changes simply because of their environment and the fact that they're away from other species and away from mankind especially, that literally have not changed.
Yeah, so, and honestly, just like, even though it is kind of weird and out there when Light shows up and he's this weird 70s golden robes, golden face, and, can travel at the speed of light and stuff like that, but it's like, honestly, it's such a very simple thing of like, well, he's a computer. And the computer is frustrated that it cannot complete its task. It's almost the HAL 9000 thing of, in order to complete his task, HAL will kill the crew, It is sort of like that, where it's like, well, the only way for this task to be done is if life stops on Earth, and that's what he comes up with. And he's like, okay, then that's what I'm going to do, because my function needs to get done. And wrapping that up in a weird Victorian mystery, it's not my first idea, but it was intriguing enough, and it made for a good setting and an interesting sort of payoff, and it still ties in with the main guy, who they had the Reverend coming in being like, oh, you're going with those Darwin theories, those crackpot Darwin evolution theories, and it's like, so it all still kind of ties into itself.
Yeah.
So,
and I just realized the little inset, that guy looks a lot like Liberace. Very flamboyant, shall we say, entertainer in Las Vegas.
Yeah. So, and this is one where the difference between something like this and the Happiness Patrol for me is this one had a plot, and it had things that were happening from scene to scene. And I know that sounds stupid to say that, oh, well, this one had a plot, but I swear the Happiness Patrol didn't have a plot. It's just things, like, different various things happened until everyone died or exploded or was set free or whatever. Whereas this, it's like, no, there is a story, there is sort of this mystery going around, and is it weird? Yes, and I will fully understand if anyone is like, this is too weird for me. I can't deal with this episode. I totally get it, but for me, I'm like, yeah, I see it's weird, but I can get behind this one. Yeah. So, especially when it comes to episodes like, the Happiness Patrol or Kinda or Warrior's Gate, which
you had to open up that can of worms.
We're just do it one more time, just because, like the Happiness Patrol, I won't say is very boring, because I mean there are kind of interesting things happening, but nothing happens because there's no plot line. Whereas like something like Warrior's Gate is just boring as all sin, and this was not boring. So
Sin's not boring. I speak from experience.
Yeah.
The Curse of Fenric.
After that was The Curse of Fenric. Another good one. Another justifies having 4 parts, definitely. And a good, honestly, like we said, it feels like an Indiana Jones movie, honestly. This interesting, like this ancient legend, but in a sort of Doctor Who way. It's not just mysticism or anything, or vampires straight up. It's like it is this alien thing, this ancient alien entity that the Doctor has previously faced before, but we didn't see it, and setting that within World War II, with this general or whatever who's like, we can use these dangerous weapons against Germany and against Russia and everything, and all of that is just incredibly interesting. So,
and it also sets up another plot point on Ace's backstory, in that one of the women in the story is her grandmother, and the baby turns out to be her mom.
Yeah, so that is the only thing where it's like, this having it tie so heavily into Ace's backstory is weird, but I think that's honestly just because we've had like 4 different stories that did that. It's like, so how much does tie into Ace,
Yeah.
But it still works out.
Yeah.
And then after that, we obviously don't have the thumbnail, but there's the thumbnail for Survival, which was interesting. It wasn't boring. It was 3 parts, mercifully, and it is, one last go with the Master. I say that we're gonna watch the movie next week, and that has the Master in it, but one last with this version of the Master.
Yeah.
The plot is a little confused, but I get what they were trying to go for. Yeah. So
I think Curse of Fenric, if they had known that they were going to be canceled, this might have made a better final episode. But again, just tack on that little thing like you did at the end. Just saying, it's a good thing we stopped here, Ace, because if we hadn't stopped here, you might not be with me now.
Yeah, like the Curse of Fenric probably would have made a better finale, but overall, I mean, still a good season overall, and I think I definitely prefer, even though I prefer Remembrance of the Daleks over everything in season 26. Overall, I think season 26 was a more solid season than season 25 and season 24. So that's
it.
That's it. That's all of classic Doctor Who. Do we want to do just quick, like, I don't know, favorite Doctor?
Well,
we can say it, but it's not like it's changed at all. So,
but having started at the beginning, Hartnell will always be my favorite. All right, simply because he was the first one. Just like Sean Connery is I like Daniel Craig. I liked a lot of the others. Some of them I was like, it's not exactly my idea of what 007 should be. But Hartnell was the first. He's my favorite. Tom Baker, Sylvester McCoy, probably my number 2.
For me, it has to be Jon Pertwee. I think, and mainly, it is his dynamic with Joe and Sarah Jane, and then you have the Brigadier and Unit, and how he bounces off the Master. But for me, Pertwee, like, that era just works so well. Like, everything kind of worked together. And I do think it is because it's not just the Doctor and his companion go to some weird place that, is set in a quarry, that we drove to get here and stuff like that. It was, like, there were a lot of interesting things going on, a lot of interesting plot lines, and just all of the characters were so defined in that era. So, and for me, honestly, like, I'm not sure with Tom Baker, honestly, and I think this is just because he went on so long. Like, early seasons of Tom Baker are still, they're incredible, and there are even some late episodes of Tom Baker that are great, but there are some times where I almost feel like Tom Baker's portrayal of the Doctor is almost a little too disconnected. Like, there's a big debate on how alien should the Doctor feel and how human should he feel, and that gets brought up so much during modern Doctor Who as well. But with Tom Baker, I feel like he was almost a little too alien sometimes, where, like, he almost didn't care, or he didn't care about his companion. Now, half the time, he went through so many companions that I don't blame him, But for me, it just sort of works better with Jon Pertwee, and maybe that is his connection with Unit, his connection with Joe and Sarah Jane, his connection, and even Liz Shaw as well, and his connection with the Master. Like, all of that just kind of works for me. Yeah. So, if I were to pick a second, I mean, Hartnell is probably up there. McCoy himself, I think McCoy's performance was good, and again, I think it's just that, half the time McCoy's episodes are not my favorite. So, but his portrayal, I think, is really good. Yeah. The others, I mean, Troughton was really good, and when Troughton has a really good episode, it's really good. I would say that the War Games is still probably the best episode of the whole series. And then as for the others, for the other two, for Peter Davison and Colin Baker, I really like them. I just think they just didn't know what to do with the two of them. Yeah. Especially more on Colin Baker, but honestly, I would say at least like 75% of Colin Baker's stories I enjoyed. So, and there were some interesting episodes with the Fifth Doctor. So it's like everyone has their pros and cons, but for me, it's still Jon Pertwee. Yeah. So,
and by the way, love Ian and Barbara, the whole idea that two teachers accompanied the First Doctor. Yeah. Beyond that, love Jamie. I think Jamie is what saves the Second Doctor. The fact that he got picked up almost from the very beginning. I mean, Polly and Ben were in, 1 or 2 before he took them home? Yeah. And then once he picked up Jamie, that started really to improve.
Yeah. Honestly, like, if there is like a sort of dull episode with the Second Doctor, it's never on Troughton. Like, Troughton and Jamie both will always make that episode. Yeah. So
Ace, and again, I think Ace serves the same sort of thing that Jamie did, that she's the muscle. She's not educated, but understands and adapts to what the Doctor is doing very quickly. Yeah. So beyond them, and I've said this before and people don't agree with me, the first Romana 1, although she was not a muscle, the fact that she was a foil for the Doctor, that she was as smart, if not smarter than he was in some of those episodes, I thought that was brilliant. The sparks between the two of them. Now, the storylines between them weren't all that great, right? But I did like her a lot.
Yeah, because there will be episodes, because after that, the second Romana is fine, and they had City of Death, which was a really, really good episode. But that is sort of where I see a lot of the disconnect with Tom Baker, and that could have been, by that point, he had been doing that for so long. But with the first Romana, it still worked. Like, there was still a good back and forth. There was a connection between the Doctor and companion. And then after that, I just didn't see it that much with the second Romana. Certainly didn't see that with Adric. but that worked. I would also say, probably in my top 5 of companions, I would say Leela. Like, Leela was so good. Also that sort of, Jamie or Ace, but maybe to the most extreme degree. It's like it's kind of strange that it's like, who they call, this savage, quote unquote, she's kind of simple-minded, but the way she works in those episodes is really interesting, and her dynamic with the Doctor. That's another one where it's like, I do see that connection with the Fourth Doctor.
In that aspect, I like Nyssa. And who was the one that was on the space station that ultimately got sent back with Jamie at the end of the Second Doctor's era?
Zoe.
All right. So, Nyssa and Zoe.
Yeah, because Nyssa, the only problem with Nyssa was that she wasn't the only one there.
Yeah.
The fact that she was saddled with Adric and Tegan, who... Tegan had a couple moments, but it was very clear they didn't know really what to do with Tegan. Nobody knew what they were doing with Adric, and nobody wanted to do anything with Adric at that point. So, but Nyssa honestly was like the first Romana, which I liked. So yeah, and then let's see. I mean, I don't know if it's controversial, but how do we do a worst? It's Adric.
Yeah,
it's probably Adric. How do you do a worst companion? It's probably Adric. None of them are really bad. Like, the closest I would say to Adric is probably Perry. That's not really Perry's fault. It's that they really just ran out of things to do with the companion at that point.
Yeah.
To where, like, and again, like, Mel is a improvement on Perry, but only so much. Like, that first episode during the trial of the Time Lord, I would say Mel was perfect. Yeah, she's doing the screaming, sure, but she was proactive, she was interesting, and then once they put her with the Seventh Doctor, they just kind of didn't want to do that with Mel anymore. Yeah. And luckily they figured out what to do with Ace, and they kept that over those 2 seasons, and Ace really, really worked. So
then there was a Vicky, there was a Victoria, there was, of course, always Susan. And again, the idea of the Susan character when they first started was perfect. I mean, it was formulaic, but it was perfect. Here's the young girl, very curious, always gets into trouble, has to be saved by Ian and Barbara and the Doctor. But then it just went beyond that. It just, she was the damsel in distress who should have been able to learn from that point on.
Yeah.
And just never did. Ben and Polly, again, interesting, but didn't have any real dynamic with either, to me, the Second Doctor or... now, did they leave before Jamie came on?
No, because Jamie came in on the second story with the Second Doctor, so it was towards the end of that first season, I think. Yeah. There was also Stephen. Stephen was a strange thing, because eventually it just ended up being the Doctor and Stephen only. They never really got along, but it kind of, I could kind of see where they would get, he's almost a foil to the first Doctor, but they never really wanted to do much with that. Probably because they didn't want, a lot carrying over from story to story. Yeah. But, the closest they had with that was the massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, where, Stephen was finally fed up with the Doctor and he left, and then he came right back, and that's when they introduced Dodo, and that was just a mess at the end of that episode.
And I did think ultimately they gave Stephen the right exit, because he got to a point where he said to the Doctor, I cannot do this anymore. The things that you have done, and I understand why you're doing them, I cannot agree with it. But then the Doctor, when he was asked to stay and help that civilization rebuild or whatever, he goes, no, I can't do that. But I think this young man can help you, because he's got really strong instincts. He's a good man, and he says, you're right, Doctor, I think I should stay.
Yeah, so.
And then there were Harry, who unfortunately...
I always forget about Harry.
Well, you have to, because he was a mistake. That he was meant to play opposite an older Doctor, and when they got Tom Baker, they began to realize we don't need a Harry, so Harry never got the kind of writing that he deserved.
Yeah, because you always forget about Harry. It's just, you go from Joe to Sarah Jane, and then that's just it, I guess, there's also... Oh, that's all right. There's also... I'm trying to... Because I'm trying to remember them all the companions now. We had Katarina for a bit.
For like 2 episodes before she blew herself out of the spaceship hatch.
Yeah, that was Terry Nation not liking having to put Katarina in. Is there anyone else with the first Doctor? No. We talked about Victoria. There was K9. K9 was an interesting idea.
Yeah.
That kind of was sort of the turning point when it's like, okay, now Doctor Who's gonna get kind of weird, and that was also around the time of Leela, but I thought Leela worked very well. But yeah, I don't know. K9 was interesting,
and the last one is Turlo, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I forgot about Turlo too. I was like, yeah, there's Adric and Tegan, and then after that was Perry, right? It's like, no, there was Turlo as well. And
if we missed anybody, it's not intentional. It's totally spur of the moment. We're going back over 5 years worth of watching.
It's been 5 years since we started all of this. I don't think we've really missed anyone. No, because after Steven, you get Dodo. Steven leaves, then Dodo is just ditched halfway through an episode. It was the worst exit, probably. Well, I don't know. Mel's was pretty stupid, too, but...
so was Perry, for that matter.
Perry's was really stupid. So, but then the same episode that they ditch Dodo is when they get Ben and Polly. So, and then after that is Jamie, and Jamie just sticks around for so long. So, yeah, like, I don't think we've missed anyone at that point. But yeah, Turlo was also an interesting one, and his story was interesting. He did kind of work as a foil for the Doctor and for Tegan. I mean, the whole thing with him being, controlled by the Black Guardian, I don't think that worked, but it was an interesting idea, and it was nice that they were changing up how they were doing companions. So,
and once they ditched the Black Guardian storyline, then the next season, when he ultimately got back to his home, that finally set it all up and going, oh, now I understand why they were doing this, this, and this. But the whole Black Guardian thing, I didn't care for that at all.
Yeah, so, I mean, pretty much everything with the Black Guardian, he just was not a very interesting... I mean, we could talk about reoccurring villains. There's not that many of them, though, other than the Master. So, the other reoccurring villains is the Master, the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Sontarans.
Now, again, you want to talk about when they first appeared. Love the Sontarans.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they weren't able to use them as well as they did in that very first one. Maybe because it was a semi-historical, but that one worked so good.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah.
One that, again, the Silurians came back several times. They were good. But the Draconians, they should have found a way to bring them back. Those guys were phenomenal.
Yeah, so... and I guess Davros is the other...
And the Autons.
Yeah, but Davros is the other one that came back multiple times, and with each passing episode, they knew less and less of what to do with Davros. Like, he worked in the first episode, and then that was he kind of works in Remembrance of the Daleks, but that's only really because he shows up at the end. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, so now I can finally, after all these years, I can cancel my subscription to BritBox on camera. And cancel. That feels good to save $9 a month. But that is it, apart from the movie. That is it for Classic Doctor Who. What did you think about the entire ride? Have you been with us through the entire thing? Have you watched all of Classic Doctor Who? If you have, my sympathies for all of you. But it's been an enjoyable ride. But the ride's not over. We got one more in the classic era, the movie, which we've already seen before, but we're looking forward to watching again. And then, as they always say, the story goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And our next stop is 1996, and our next stop after that is 2005. So
now I'm looking forward to Eccleston. That one episode we saw really intrigued me.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it too, because it's been about 6 or 7 years since I've watched that first season. And I'm curious to see how it still holds up, which I think it still does hold up. But yeah. But that is basically it. With all of that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching all of these videos. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our classic Doctor Who reactions, as well as a playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.